Hi, welcome back for Chapter 9 of True Colors. Last episode, finally, Michael and Cassie's courtship began. And in this episode, it continues to bloom over the course of months. I hope you'll stick around to the end of the video because at the end of the chapter reading, I'm going to be sharing where some of my inspiration for Michael's dilemma and struggle and decision-making came from. Actually, family history. My father in World War II went through a similar situation, a similar decision that needed to be made. And I used the letters that he wrote home as inspiration, and even some of the dialogue is used from those letters in a scene where Michael has to explain to Cassie what is going on within him. So I hope that you will stick around for that. But now, let's see how Cassie and Michael's courtship blooms.
True Colors, Chapter 9. We spent a magnificent long weekend in Annapolis with Michael's only sister Polly and her husband Bud to celebrate Maryland's Thanksgiving holiday. Michael's brother Matt, along with his wife and 3 children, had come all the way from Albany to spend the month. I met his cousin Sam, who was there with his beautiful wife Madeline. It was the first time in many years I had felt nestled in the warm atmosphere of a large family, and Michael's relatives made me feel very much at home. On Christmas Day I worked, and Michael was out of town on government business. I knew little about what he did in the Secret Service Department, for he was not at liberty to speak freely about it. Nonetheless, I was proud of him, and often we spoke of our shared joy of serving the Union together in our widely variant capacities. I missed him when he was gone, and upon his return he proved just how much he, too, had missed me with amorous embraces and warm kisses. In February, personal tragedy struck an already bruised and battered nation. President Lincoln's younger sons contracted bilious fever. Tad eventually recovered, but 11-year-old Willie succumbed to the disease. The Lincolns were inconsolable. 2 days later was Washington's birthday, but this year the public buildings were not illumined out of condolence. Michael attended the funeral service in the East Room of the Executive Mansion and rode in a violent rainstorm to Georgetown in the long procession in which white horses drew the hearse. I worked 16 hours at the hospital that day, but my heart was with the grieving Lincoln family. "He will be sorely missed," Michael told me as he walked me home through a light drizzle that night. "Those 2 boys romped through the mansion like it was their playhouse. Tad once shot missiles from a toy cannon into a cabinet meeting. And Willie, well, he was a junior edition of his father. Mrs. Lincoln was too stricken to even attend the funeral today. Tad is still ill. The president is in agony." Throughout the spring of 1862, there were warm days of riding through the Maryland and Virginia countryside, or walking along the streets of Washington commenting on the history of the town and our concerns for its future. We stopped to observe the construction work on the dome of the Capitol and on the Washington Monument. We walked past the Executive Mansion on many occasions, but I never so much as caught a glimpse of Mr. Lincoln or his family. Then there were the cool evenings when we attended the theater or band concerts in the park. We enjoyed reading to each other from his grand collections of prose, poetry, and drama. Often we ate at one of the many excellent restaurants in Georgetown or Alexandria, but occasionally I would cook for him when we spent the day at his home in Washington. The house was quaint and what he considered small, but in comparison to my room at the boarding house, it seemed a mansion to me. The stately rooms were bright and cheery, the kitchen large enough to move about in. When time allowed, we rode to the Great Falls. Spring brought its own type of beauty to the area, and we took long rides through the woods, the bountiful leaves pale green in their immaturity. Our enchantment with that place, and with each other, grew as the months passed. Somehow, in the midst of a war that relentlessly demanded our energies, our emotions, and our wits, there grew in each of us an intimation of what stirred in the soul of the other. Like the cords of a rope, our spirits intertwined, and our hearts beat for each other. As Michael walked me home one night, he said, "Darling, I have some news to tell you. It's difficult to have to say this. I'm going to be sent away." I knew instantly this was more than just a trip to Baltimore or Frederick for security organizational meetings. The emptiness of a protracted separation came upon me in that moment. We walked the final block in silence, my arm locked in his. I finally drew enough courage to ask, "When?" "In about a month." We climbed the steps and entered the parlor of the boarding house. I sat on the divan, but he walked to the middle of the room and began turning his hat in his hands, a sign he was about to speak from the depths of his heart. "Recently, I've been thinking about a conversation I overheard between my father and my brother Jed one night in our barn. I was 12, Jed was 17 and getting ready to set out for college in New York City. I listened from the loft, and they never knew I was there. Pa warned Jed about the kinds of people he'd have to deal with in the big city, and about being accountable to God for the choices he'd make. He cautioned him to choose friends who shared his standards, that bad company corrupts good morals. You are who you run with, Pa reminded him. Then he put his hand on Jed's shoulder and told him that one of the most important choices he would ever make was when it came time to take a wife." Beads of perspiration formed on his forehead. "Choose a woman who is first and foremost God-fearing and virtuous," Pa told him, "who holds to high morals and who requires the same from you. A woman who's intelligent and laughs easily, one who is comfortable inside her own skin, who likes who she is and respects you for who you are. A helpmate." His story ended abruptly. I wondered if he could hear the pounding within my chest. "Did Jed ever find such a woman?" "Yes, he did." Letting out a sharp sigh, he said, "I have to go. I have an early appointment." I followed him to the door where he turned to me. No more words escaped him, only another rueful sigh. I leaned up and kissed him. His arms enfolded me. "Cassie, you're not working tomorrow. My appointment will be over by 10. Come with me to the falls. There's no place I'd rather go on this whole earth." We tiptoed and sidestepped our way along the irregular shoreline, then sat down and allowed the mist to bathe our faces and the thunderous sounds to fill our ears. We spoke little, our eyes scanning our surroundings, taking in the enormous beauty and majesty of what had become our shared haven. Our empty stomachs eventually declared themselves, so we worked our way back to where we left the horses and walked to Dickie's Inn. Later we strolled along the old locks and into the woods. The forest was thick with foliage and underbrush. We emerged in a small clearing not far from the water. Michael removed a blanket from his saddle and spread it out on the grass. I sat down on it. He remained standing. Indeed, he began to pace. His horse neighed, and he stroked its glistening black neck and scratched behind its twittering ears. "Will you be taking Midnight with you?" I wouldn't consider leaving him behind. "You're leaving me behind?" He tensed all over, then began to pet his steed with more vigor. "Michael, it was a joke." I patted a spot next to me on the blanket. "Come and sit down before you rub a bald streak on the poor horse." But he paced again. "Tell me what it is that has you as troubled as the torrents of water that race past us here." His expression darkened even more. "Cassie, I haven't been completely honest with you. I told you last night that I'm being sent away, but the truth is that no one is ordering me to go on this mission. They're leaving the decision up to me, and I want to tell them that I'll accept." My eyes cast downward. "I see. No, I don't think you do, but I need you to." He came to me, took hold of my hands, and raised me from the ground. "I need for you to understand what anguish this has brought upon me, making the choice between what I want to do, which is to stay here with you, and what I believe I haven't the words to explain it. I just feel that I'm meant to do this. Yet I want this to be our decision, not just mine. It sounds like you're asking for my consent more than my contribution. The unrest within him shone through his countenance. My years as a detective, plus the fact I'm well acquainted with Alan Pinkerton and his ways, make me the choicest man for the job. It's him I'd be working with initially. Another reason is because I'm unwed. They want a man who has no one solely dependent on him for sustenance. They send married soldiers into battle every day. Soldiers can write to their wives and send some of their wages home, and if worse came to worst, their widows would receive their pension. Because of the nature of my work, I wouldn't be permitted to contact you in any way. It could be a prolonged absence, perhaps even the duration of the war. I shut my eyes in vain attempt to shut out the thought. This is the very reason why I had it fixed in my mind not to get involved with anyone as long as I had this job. But then I met you. Are you saying you regret having scrapped your ever-so-sound plan in favor of courting me? No, of course not. You know I would never go back to a life without you. But I knew it could come to this, and how painful it would be for us both. But it doesn't have to come to anything. Just tell them you won't go. I didn't get the response I hoped to hear, nor any response. You can't expect me to willingly agree to be apart from you, never hearing from you. A soldier's family at least receives letters from him and is notified if he's been wounded or killed. The thought of what could happen to you is terrifying enough, but it's compounded by the fact that I'd never even know about it. The only sound was that of the surging water, which equaled the tumult in my soul. If I truly have any say in this, then I say stay here, out of harm's way, close to me. Standing motionless, he offered no argument, yet in his eyes was a glimmer of something akin to loss. I had to walk away. For nearly an hour I sat on a rock near the swarming water. Michael had gone into the woods alone. My heart and my mind clashed in mortal combat, weighing my needs against his, against those of the disintegrating union. Could I allow myself to be so selfish as to pit my personal happiness and comfort against all else that was at stake here? His work truly would make a difference. Lives were on the line, the nation's future, but so is ours. He and I would be a family soon. I was sure he was working up to it. And wasn't family the bedrock of this nation? Hadn't too many families already paid the ultimate price to maintain this union? A resolution did not come easily. My tears did. I returned to the clearing where he stood waiting, having fought his own inner battles. I won't leave if you don't want me to, Cassie. Not if it will be too hard on you, being apart and not knowing of my fate. You have loved me so well that I can't live without it now. I don't want you to go. His eyes lowered. He nodded in acquiescence. But I understand that you must. I gazed into his startled expression. Ours is not a choice between home and country, for they are too closely entwined. I realized that to fight for one is to safeguard the other. I took a step closer to him. And you needn't explain your calling to me, Michael. A calling is why I'm here, nursing, and not back on the farm. I touched his cheek. In the times we have been briefly apart, I missed you desperately, but never went without your love. It reached me even when you were far from me. It will this time, too. He snatched me into his arms. My love will reach you, my darling, no matter how long this separation lasts. He released me, took a step back, and lifted my chin. Your heaven-born virtue, your pure honesty, your genuine kindness and quick wit have conquered my heart and never fail to keep me in want of you. I believe that what you and I have together is forever. He lowered to one knee. You, Cassie, alone among women, have I loved. When I return, Will you marry me? My heart thrilled at the words I had been waiting to hear. Oh, yes, yes, I will marry you. He stood, and I threw my arms around his neck and hugged him tight. I love you so much, Michael. Come back safely to me. I have more reason now than ever to return. He moved me to arm's length, yet I also have more reason to go, more to fight for. I would have stayed if you wanted, but I truly believe that I would have lived with an uneasiness and a regret for allowing others to do the job I was meant to do. You have gifted me with peace in knowing that you will be here waiting for me, sustaining our love and our dreams. I believe that all our hopes for a secure future together lie in the preservation of the union. I have an opportunity to take part in securing that future. I trust you with my future, Michael, and that of our future children. His smile was wide and bright. What a magnificent vision to keep before me while I'm parted from you. Our children, all 10 of them. 10? I grew up in a large family and want a passel of my own kids. I was an only child, but would also love to have a passel of them. But 10? We laughed at the image, but then our lilted spirits took a serious turn. Moments like these would now be sparing, and none could be wasted. He drew me to him. When I'm holding you like this, especially out here in our own world, the power of my need for you is frightening. My thoughts took flight. Michael, I know they want you to be unwed, but, well, you're good at keeping secrets, and if we married in secret, we can't, Cassie. Don't even think along those lines. You can hardly bid my thoughts to regroup and fall in at your command, Major. Don't think that I haven't considered it myself, but it's not solely because of my work that I must say no to this secret wedding idea. As eager as I am to make you my wife, I have to weigh the effects. If you should come to be in a family way, our child would be deemed illegitimate, and it would destroy your reputation. The last thing I want is to leave you here to deal with the chain of disastrous consequences I've left in my wake. But he shook his head commandingly. It was settled. We gathered up and folded the blanket, and Michael tied it to his saddle. We walked to the edge of the bank and looked out over the tumbling waters, our senses absorbing the incredible sights and sounds that had been to a large extent the backdrop of our falling in love. Staring into the river's surges, a sudden, unexplained dread washed over me. I fear you and I are to be sorely tested by what we are facing, the way these waters test those who try to conquer them. He placed his arm around my shoulder and whispered in my hair, "Have no fear, my darling. Our love will conquer all."
So their courtship made it all the way through to an engagement. And so now I want to share with you, I'm going to read some excerpts from letters that my father wrote to my mom, and one he wrote to my oldest sister when she was just 3 months old, to explain his struggle and why he made decisions that he made back then. So I hope you'll stay for that, and I'll share those with you. I'll be reading them and showing you some background pictures. Let's get started.
In writing this scene with Michael and Cassie, I tried to capture his heart and what went into his decision-making. And my inspiration and what I drew from was letters that my father wrote to my mother and to my oldest sister when she was just an infant during World War II, where he explains why he made the decision he made and how much it meant to him and blessed him that my mother gave him permission. He mentioned more than once how that made him feel. The first excerpt is from a letter to my mom, and it reads, "So you see, honey, I do owe something to my country. I owe it plenty. If our country is to remain free, I owe it to myself and my wife and my children to do my part in keeping it that way. Sure, I could say, let the other fellow do the fighting. I'll slip out of it some way. But I am not constitutionally constructed that way. The hypocrisy of it would make me uneasy and unhappy. And I have many years yet to live with my darling, and they will be happy years, whereas shrinking from my part in the war may have caused me unhappiness during the years which now will be happy ones, God willing. And the second excerpt reads, As I have always said, I'll always bless the day that you gave me permission to accept my commission. You were the only one in the world that could have stopped me, and one word would be enough. And so here's my father's letter to his 3-year-old daughter, who he only saw one day. He had leave for one day to see his newborn daughter before he had to move on and head overseas. When you read this letter, say some evening when you and Mommy and I are sitting in front of the fireplace, you will then be old enough to understand what I am about to tell you. Today I am an officer in the Army of the United States, serving with its armed forces somewhere in North Africa, where this is written. It may be, but I assuredly do not know, that some of our relatives and friends could not quite understand why I volunteered to enter the service. You see, you were not yet born, but you were destined to be, and that is when your mother needed me most. Instead of staying beside her, I went to war. Why? That is what I want to tell you. For some years, your father had been a reasonably successful lawyer. Your mother and I were completely happy. We had a fine home, and although we waited a while for you to arrive, we just knew you'd be along. And why did your father leave home when God was about to further bless it with your little body? Well, honey, shortly after we were forced into the present war, a feeling gradually came over your father. Something started to tick within him. When you read this, you will not understand what tick means. I don't even know. Nobody knows. It is something that goes on inside. It denies explanation. It just can't be described. You know you should stay at home, and you want to, but at the same time you know, for some reason, you belong somewhere else. It's a funny feeling, and it just won't let you alone. You are sure you don't want to leave home and everything that's fine, and then you are not sure. Yes, it's that mixed up. Torn between home and country, I tried to mollify myself with government employment, which alone would have allowed me a fair income and an exemption from war. I was informed by the War Department that I could serve my country equally as well in government employment as I might as a soldier in the armed forces. I tried it, but it was no dice. I found it wasn't so. And then on August 6, 1942, I was proffered a commission by the President of the United States as a first lieutenant. I was privileged to accept or decline. No one will ever know what it took to make that decision. And what was your mother doing all this time? That is what I'm proud and anxious to tell you. All the while she knew as well as I did what was going on inside of me. And all the while she comforted and advised me, relieved me to the extent that even she doesn't know, in her own subtle, unexciting way. Indeed, had your mother opposed my decision even for a moment, I would have bowed to her simple wish. But as you will come to learn, your mother is made of the finer, unselfish stuff, as your father learned long before your mother accepted him. Where others would be selfish and unthinking, she knew so very well where our future lay. She knew, too, that we do not live for today, that tomorrow often brings better things. And so your father is now in foreign service, thanks to your adorable mother. God will bless her for giving me her unflinching blessing, because you see, this is not a war for power and aggrandizement like so many others have been in the past, but a war to preserve Christianity itself. That is why God will not fail to bless her. And so I'll leave you for the present and proceed to do my work in a manner that will make your mother proud of her husband and happy that she saw me through those trying days that I have spoken to you about. With love and kisses to you and Mommy, Father.
So now you can see what not only my dad and, fictionally speaking, Michael, but many of our service members today go through in making decisions to go to war, to stay home with family, the ones that have that choice to make even. I hope you remember our service members in this time of conflict that we're in. And I hope that you will like these videos, share these videos, and subscribe to the channel. And we'll see you next time in Chapter 10 when we see how their engagement unfolds. See you then.